chasing a high-flying hunter in the Pacific, a mammoth mako shark.
Going away? Man.
Oh, dude, he's right there. He's chasing us.
Hang on.
Wrangling a silver king on the fly, a titanic leaping tarpon.
All right, are we ready?
Hitting a shark-infested reef to tag the ultimate underwater flying monster, a massive manta ray.
It's just like putting a very sharp knife into butter.
And a deadly showdown. A life-or-death clash of man versus black marlin, impaling a young angler's head.
Oh my God!
I didn't know if he was going to live.
In the name of science and sport, it's the most extreme encounters of man versus fish. Unhooked, flying monsters. Leaping out of our rivers and oceans, they're the ultimate deadly daredevils. To kill or fight for their own survival, these amazing aerial acrobats take to the skies. And on the hunt or on the run, when these phenomenal fish fly, they defy gravity. How do they become top guns? In astounding encounters face to face, we uncover the secrets of these flying whoppers.
When we look at the body of a fish, we see a body shape that is highly streamlined, the same way that an airplane is streamlined. What is good in water is also very good for movement in air.
Add a lethal weapon to the daredevil design, and you've got airborne alpha predators. In some battles of man versus fearsome flying fish, a leaping beast can push the fight to the killer edge, taking human flesh, risking an angler's life. Peñas Bay, Panama, July 7th, 2005. Bob Schultz is an international sport fisherman, but this South American trip is special. His children, Stephen and Allison, are along for the ride.
This is lovely. Here's my dad taking the photo.
I wanted to get both of them down there to just spend 8 hours a day with me in a boat and not have any place else to go. No phones, no cell phones, no TVs, just dad time.
Bob's hope is to pass along his passion for pulling in monster fish, especially one of the most coveted of all, black marlin, known in this fishing mecca as His Majesty.
They're powerful jumpers, leapers. They really put on a show.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, look at the big one. Are you going to stay in the chair?
Meet their target, black marlin. In an ocean battleground, these hunters attack prey with aeronautical speed and a brutal, jutting javelin.
They have that bill, and that bill is extremely sharp, and various billfish have actually been known to puncture the hulls of wooden boats.
Record-setting marlin stretch over 4 meters, weighing in at almost 700 kilos. Yet their super size doesn't slow them down. These cruising commandos hunt like radar-guided missiles, hitting speeds nearly 130 kilometers an hour. Pouncing on prey at the water's surface, behemoth body muscle and kinetic energy send them soaring straight out of the water.
So marlin can jump about 10 feet out of the water, and that's pretty remarkable when you consider the size of the animal. These are very big fish, and so to actually develop enough thrust to drive themselves out of the water to such a height is a fairly great accomplishment.
And once they're flying, marlin can keep going. Seen from the surface, these bounding beasts look like they're skimming along the ocean, a spectacle known as greyhounding. And above or below the water, the black marlin is always poised for an attack, with a little help from these. It's estimated black marlin bills can stretch nearly a full meter. Yet incredibly, their bills are actually upper jaws that jut out like flesh-stabbing swords.
It's actually its upper jaw that forms this large sword or bill on the front.
For someone who's trying to bring a marlin in, it's important to actually get a handle on that bill, to control that, keep it from flailing around and potentially being impaled by it.
For any angler, taking on a black marlin is a serious test of skill that can take a turn for the terrifying.
Marlin look like pure muscle. They're just really thickly built fish. They fight back. You can't almost hold on to the rod sometimes because they're so strong.
Now back in the boat, the Schultz family has no way of knowing their fishing trip is about to turn into a nightmare. Nearly 50 kilometers out to sea, the crew sets bait and casts into the ocean. Allison documents the trip on her video camera.
Oh, you getting some pictures?
Yeah, I'm getting all of it on video.
At first, no one's having any luck. Then suddenly, Stephen's rod starts singing. He's got something strong. Stephen grabs hold and starts fighting. But as he struggles to keep control, the pull is intense, more powerful than anything he's ever felt.
I knew it was the biggest fish I had caught thus far in my life. Even catching sailfish wasn't like that. It was just pulling so differently and so hard.
In a flash, the fish makes a giant leap out of the water. It's a monster black marlin, soaring like a missile.
The first jump was awesome because I'd never seen a fish that big in real life. I was kind of shocked and awed by it, and really intimidated by the size of it because I was afraid that that's what I was going to be reeling in.
And I saw the thing completely clear the water, and it was humongous.
Stephen braces himself for an epic battle. Mammoth marlin will fight to the death.
You have to pace yourself to fight the fish for that long. I was ready to just, use every muscle in my body.
But after an exhausting 30 minutes, Stephen's arms are burning with fatigue. Trying to stay focused, he has no idea what's going on underwater.
We hadn't seen the fish in 15 minutes, so we didn't know exactly where it was or how far away it was.
Feeling a sharp tug on the line, Stephen senses the marlin is agitated below. He and Bob scan the water, anxious to see the beast's next move. In an instant, the fish bursts from the water, right next to the boat. Even as Stephen fights to stay hooked, the family's thrilled to see His Majesty, the black marlin, up close. The incredible animal dives back down and once again takes a giant leap. But something's very wrong. In a sickening split second, it's clear the marlin is flying straight at Stephen. Trapped moments from impact, time seems to stand still.
When the fish was coming in the boat, I realized that it was going to hit me, and I just didn't really give myself any time to react because I didn't think it was real.
I don't think it was an errant jump. They're apex predators. Nobody messes with them. This fish got messed with, and I think it just said, "We're gonna get you."
Oh my God! Oh my God!
The thrashing marlin's huge, an estimated 2.5 meters long and a whopping 270 kilos, big enough to do lethal damage to Stephen's head. It flies head-on, stabbing Stephen in the face with its bill.
I woke up on the deck of the boat, and I was getting pulled into the corner, and the mates rushed over, cut the line.
As the crew cuts the line, Bob rushes to his son.
I didn't know if he was going to live. He was screaming in pain. I grabbed a towel and I shoved the towel on his face. And I honestly couldn't look at that point.
And the situation gets worse. The boat isn't equipped with emergency supplies. Trapped at sea, hours from civilization, Bob does his best to keep his son calm as the ship races back to shore. But with each passing second, Stephen Schultz is on borrowed time. Back on land, Stephen's flown to a hospital in Panama City. All told, it's been 5 hours since the Marlin strike, and Stephen's ordeal is far from over. X-rays reveal 4 broken facial bones. Deep lacerations cut through the angler's mouth and throat. And now there's an even deadlier risk: infection. Marlin bills are covered in bacteria. Stephen's doctors administer Cipro, an antibiotic so powerful it's used to fight anthrax.
The Marlin's bill went in my mouth, hit me in the back of the throat, came across my wisdom tooth scars that had just gotten removed, and tore up the upper part of my cheek, and then cut my cheek on the way out. It took about a month and a half for me to heal completely.
That's all I'm thinking about.
Though Stephen made a full recovery, some wounds take longer to heal.
Stephen was very close to being killed that day.
Oh my God!
I can tell you that for the first couple of years, I thought about it every day. Every day.
Today, father and son hold no grudge against the marlin. They continue to enjoy fishing trips around the world, though they take a few more precautions, especially around large billfish.
I think we both have a newfound respect for marlin and what they're capable of. Our fishing experience has always been a good bonding time for us, and nothing's really changed, just we're a little bit more cautious when fish get close.
Deep in another flying fish destination, an angler's ready to take on an epic battle of fishermen versus airborne beast. Puerto Real Bay, Puerto Rico, January 6, 2007. Greg Gibson's a globe-trotting fly fisherman. He's chased everything from northern pike in Manitoba to bonefish in the Bahamas. But here in the Caribbean, Greg has one goal. A catch-and-release angler, Greg wants to land a titanic tarpon on a fly.
The challenge that the tarpon brings, not only the initial hookup, which is by far the most exciting, but to get a fish over 100 pounds into the boat with a fly line is, I think, just an achievement.
Greg's fearsome flying adversary? Meet the tarpon. In the choice of fight or flight, these aerial whoppers take flight to new heights. To avoid predator attacks, these acrobats cut through the sky like stealth bombers, landing where their opponents least expect them.
If you have a predator which is in the water, probably the safest place to be is out of the water. So the ability to jump out of the water, to move to some other location that maybe the predator can't see where you're going, is a real advantage.
Nicknamed the Silver King for their shimmering scales, tarpon grow massive, over 2 meters long and nearly 140 kilos. And when it comes to flying, tarpon can soar up to 3 meters out of the water. These leaping beasts have an air-breathing advantage. Like the intake on a jet engine, a modified swim bladder draws in outside air, allowing tarpon to keep breathing and hunting in shallow, low-oxygen environments where other fish die.
There's actually a tiny duct that connects the swim bladder to the gut. Now that's a real advantage for the tarpon because what it means is it could also potentially use that swim bladder as sort of a lung and get extra oxygen.
And one thing's certain, for any angler who dares to battle these flying fish in the flesh, hooked tarpon fight back in a leaping, epic fight to the finish.
Oh my! I got that, dude.
Here in Puerto Real Bay, Greg teams up with local tarpon guide Francisco Pochi Rosario.
Hey, Senor Pochi, Greg, mi amigo. How are you?
So renowned, he's nicknamed the Tarpon Hombre.
Catching a big tarpon on a fly is like a holy grail for the fly fishing angler. What you try to do all your life.
Oh, dude, I got that.
Speeding out, Pochi heads toward a nearby tarpon hangout. As his guide anchors the boat, Greg warms up with a few casts.
Hopefully we can catch a big one. A couple of them.
I'm a lucky fisherman. I guarantee we're going to hook some tarpon.
Oh, tarpon right behind the boat. Right behind the boat. Right behind the boat.
How far?
Big fish.
Suddenly, Pochi spots a group of tarpon. He calls out to Greg.
Right side, right there, about 75 feet.
Greg focuses hard.
There we go.
Casts his fly. And misses.
Let me go back again.
Quickly reeling in, Greg repositions and casts again. In a burst, the fish leaps from the water and snatches the fly. It's huge.
When he came out of the water the first time, it's when we realized this is a very, very big fish. Then the anxiety starts kicking in is can I hold on to this thing? Oh, yeah, he's strong. Yeah, man.
I saw the fish and I said, Greg, oh, Greg, you have a lifetime fish.
Greg widens his stance and braces himself, waiting for the tarpon to take flight once again.
Can't get over how strong he is, man. He has just got me doubled over here.
In a rush, the fish jumps and thrashes, flashing its signature silver scales. Greg knows the battle's just begun. Trying to shake free, the fish jumps again and again. Each leap seems higher than the last, and Greg is struggling just to stay in the fight.
When a tarpon jumps, they call it bowing to the king. You need to bow your body and your line and keep it low to the water so he can't spit the fly out.
The tug-of-war rages for a back-breaking 2 hours. Exhausted, Greg's whole body's sore, but he refuses to quit.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Then, the fish shows the first sign of fatigue, surfacing for air.
When they come up to the surface, you have a sense of relief that things are getting closer and we might be able to get this fish into the boat here soon.
But it's not over yet. Refusing to give up, the beast dives back down. Greg's amazed by the tarpon's tenacity, but he's just as determined. He gathers his strength and gives a forceful pull. In an instant, the fish appears next to the boat.
Okay, Greg, the fish.
Greg's got it.
Okay, I got him right here.
Okay, got him. Okay.
Leaning down, the angler can't believe his eyes.
I got it.
The one thing I noticed right away when we got the fish close to the boat was the enormous size of his head and the size of his eyes. It was just incredible. I just was in awe.
Give me the leader.
Time is critical. Greg and fishing guide Pochi Rosario want to measure the fish before releasing the animal alive.
Okay, I got it out. You can just feel the strength of this fish. Even after a 2-hour and 20-minute fight, the fish, just picking him up, is just nothing but muscle.
Grabbing hold of the beast with a massive heave, the two anglers manage to land it. At last, the monster tarpon's in the boat. At more than 2 meters long, 1 meter around, and an estimated 100 kilos, the whopper's nearly bigger than both Pochi and Greg.
It was unbelievable. Hold it and take the photo and everything that, take the measure and everything.
We've had a thrill of a lifetime with this fish, and now we want to make sure that we release it alive.
To protect species survival, Puerto Rican regulations stipulate all anglers must release tarpon back where they came from. Greg carefully lowers the fish into the water and holds it while Pochi gets the boat cruising. Running water through the gills delivers reviving oxygen. Finally, with a push, the titanic tarpon swims off. For Greg, it's a fly fishing catch and release of a career.
My friend, that was awesome!
In another flying fish lair, combine aeronautics with aggression, and you have these fearsome and ferocious killers. Apex predators who push their lethal leaps to the frightening limit. The last thing unlucky prey sees before death. The Mako shark.
As Mako sharks leap from the water, they're going to come out sort of almost like a missile. These animals may actually do flips as they're coming out. They may actually roll.
Stretching longer than 3 meters, weighing nearly half a ton. Thanks to a combination of brutal weaponry and blazing fast speed, Mako sharks reach petrifying proportions. Row upon row of razor-sharp, dagger-like teeth allow Makos to bite into big meals. But it's their sleek hydrodynamic shape and powerful propulsion system that lets them catch up to almost any kill.
Mako sharks patrol through the water until they encounter a fish, and then they'll just use their burst of speed to attack.
In and out of water, Mako bodies are built for the high-speed hunt. Tendons connect masses of oxygen-rich muscle tissue to a sickle-shaped tail fin. Rhythmic contractions work like pistons, generating powerful thrust to catapult Makos to high speed and high altitude.
You need all that force, all that thrust, in order to drive the animal through the surface of the water and up to the heights that it can attain.
And their flight plan is terrifying. Makos scout victims swimming above them and kill from underneath. Shooting upwards, clamping onto prey at maximum velocity, they break the surface in stunning and deadly displays.
These animals have been known to leap out of the water as far as 15 to 20 feet above the water surface, which is fairly incredible for any animal.
Fishermen battling these ferocious flying whoppers know, hook a Mako and you're in for one of the wildest rides in the ocean.
When they run 300 yards out and do a double backflip 15 feet out of the air, that's what it's all about.
San Diego, California, August 27, 2006. Believed to be a Mako shark breeding ground, this bayside nursery is home to juvenile sharks. Anglers flock to catch these small-scale jumpers, but few dare to battle the largest Mako on Earth, nicknamed by anglers as a Big Mama. Yet for avid fisherman Brendan Mason and Captain Dave Trimble, it's the ultimate challenge. A mighty Mako caught on a fly.
I first came to San Diego to try to fish for Mako sharks because I'd heard about the fishery here and I just wanted to give it a shot.
Steaming out to a prime spot, Dave drops a bait bucket filled with oily fish. Like a deep-sea dinner bell, hungry sharks within hundreds of meters can smell the tempting feast. At first, no luck.
It started out slow, and it seemed like it might be a bust.
Then,
oh, look at the chum slick. Here one comes, man. Right there.
The strategy works. Captain Dave spots a mako cruising in.
We need the biggest frog you got, man.
Brendan gets ready to cast. Until something goes wrong. The shark suddenly disappears. Baffled, the men scan the water.
Hey, where'd it go? I don't see it.
Wondering what spooked the shark.
Oh my gosh, look at that one.
Then they see it. A massive fin just meters from the boat. They can only imagine the size of the beast below. A mako, bigger than any they've ever seen.
Everybody kind of just froze for a second, and we realized what we had to deal with.
All of us on board were just kind of shocked. You know, sitting there with our jaws open.
And even more shocking, the behemoth shark is moving directly towards them. Suddenly, in a blur of jaws and teeth, it bites down, shattering the floating bait bucket.
It was actually creepy to watch because its teeth would come out and its eyes would roll back in its head and it would just crush the bucket and you'd hear plastic snapping.
And it gets scarier. Finished with the bucket, the hunting shark now begins bearing down on the boat.
As its mouth opened up and its lips curled back and its teeth came out and it started to chew on the motor, I was wondering if the motor could take it at that point because of the pressure of the jaws.
In a frenzy, the mako gnaws repeatedly at the engine. Stuck in shark-infested waters, the men pray the ship will hold, and the shark won't go after bigger prey. Acting quickly, Brendan casts his fly, hoping to lure the biting mako away from the boat. Success! In a flash, the fish whips its head and chomps down.
He ate it! Yes! We got him!
But the hook only agitates the mako more. As Brendan sets the fly, the whopper shark shoots from the water. The men hold their breath as the mako flips a full 360 degrees before diving back down.
They don't just jump and fall back in the water. They actually flip, and a lot of times they're going head first back in, right where they came out.
To see a fish that big come completely out of the water, inverted and doing a backflip is something real special. A lot of people don't get to witness something like that.
Now, as the shark pulls the boat, each powerful run ends in a stunning aerial display.
We could see this shark jumping way off in the distance. It made probably 5 or 6 jumps in a row, you know, coming completely out of the water, doing backflips.
For Brendan, still hooked to the charging flying beast, the fight is on. The angler uses all his strength to hold on to the rod, trying to keep up and stay rooted on deck. He prays the tug-of-war will end before his body gives out.
In that type of fight, really, the thing that keeps you going is knowing that you're fighting what could easily be the biggest fish you're ever going to catch in your life. And you just can't quit.
Angler Brendan Mason's in the fight of his life against a massive flying mako shark. After battling a grueling 40 minutes, as the mako starts to tire, the fish's leaps grow fewer and far between. Brendan's fishing buddy Dave pushes Brendan to hang on a little longer and reel the beast to the boat. But Brendan's feeling the strain. Using the last of his energy, he gives a powerful yank and gets the shark up close. He's finally face to face with his mammoth mako. Looking down on the super specimen, the anglers can't believe their eyes. They estimate the mako's a staggering 3.5 meters long, weighing over 270 kilos, a possible world record fly catch, if they bring the shark to shore. Yet both men are committed to catch and release, and they know the sooner they set the Mako 3, the better its chances of survival. To save the shark, the men quickly cut the line, and their chance at a world record. They watch as the mighty beast kicks its tail and swims away.
The feeling as I was cutting the wire is undescribable. It was probably the biggest fish in the world ever caught and released on fly tackle.
The most epic fishing trip I've ever been on.
Right on, man. Yeah, got him. Good work, man.
For Brendan, the biggest thrill of the day is knowing his Mako is still swimming and repopulating in the wild.
I practice catch and release almost exclusively. I think it's really important, especially in a place like San Diego where the Mako sharks come to breed. It's like a nursery for sharks, and it's probably also one of the places where they're most susceptible to overfishing.
But a world away, some flying species are the ultimate gravity-defying group, the hatchetfish. In Brazil's Amazon River, when hatchetfish sense an approaching predator, they fling themselves to safety in the air, launching over 3 meters above the surface. For a hatchetfish school, changing location could mean the difference between life and becoming another fish's dinner. Yet a different flying fish works under the motto, one for all. Across a continent, another flying fish haven lures fishermen to battle. And for one team of brothers, going up against a mammoth beast pushes them to the edge of endurance. Fraser River, British Columbia. August 19th, 2007. Brothers Mike and Gino DiDomenico book a weekend fishing trip with Captain Brian McKinley. Their plan is to catch wild salmon, but Captain Brian convinces the men to go for a far more elusive and extraordinary challenge: white sturgeon.
I had seen sturgeon before and I knew how big they got, and I was excited.
White sturgeon are a formidable flying adversary. Flying is in their DNA. Incredibly, these lone fish pilots soar to save their own species. Some believe these leaping leviathans are masters of in-flight communication, conveying life-saving coordinates by taking to the air. Monster sturgeon can stretch longer than a surfboard, over 3 meters, topping the scales at well over half a ton. Killers since the Cretaceous period 100 million years ago, sturgeon are prehistoric survivors. Healthy sturgeon are born flyers. They're packed with white muscle, tough tissue that works like an afterburner. At peak performance, white muscle allows sturgeon to launch their huge girth clear out of the water, reaching 6 feet.
You can imagine trying to drag in, an 8-foot sturgeon that is sideways, that is flailing. It's going to make for a great fight, a difficult fight. It's just a huge pull on you.
But unlike other flying monsters, bottom-feeding predator-free sturgeon don't leap to corral prey or avoid danger. Instead, one theory suggests they jump to communicate. Some experts believe sturgeon use flying leaps to mark their territory, like GPS tracking, alerting other sturgeon to the location of deep water, prized sturgeon feeding ground. Yet no matter why they jump, one thing's certain: once hooked, sturgeon take off.
It's like watching a missile come out of the river, just head first, and then come, straight up, twisting in the air. You can't describe it.
Even for skilled fishermen like the DiDomenicos, flying sturgeon are no easy catch. Now, Captain Brian searches for deep pockets in the river floor where these bottom feeders hunt their favorite prey. The Fraser River was once brimming with giant sturgeon, but overfishing and habitat loss have taken their toll. Today, white sturgeon angling is exclusively catch and release. Finding just the right spot, the men drop anchor. After some baiting tips from Captain Brian,
one hook through the side and out the back, swing it all the way back.
The two anglers cast into the river.
Tighten. Perfect.
But in the murky waters, there's zero visibility.
You don't see what's in the water. You're hunting something you don't see.
Suddenly, Gino's rod starts spinning. He's got a bite. Clutching hard, Gino lurches forward, struggling to keep his hold on the pole. The fish is a pulling machine, and it's headed straight for the bottom depths.
The pole kind of feels like you're holding a bus off a skyscraper with a rope.
Gino does his best to hang on.
Yeah, it's got a pretty good one there, man. Yeah.
Then, in a sudden burst, the fish leaps from the water.
That's a big fish.
The brothers are stunned. It's a whopper white sturgeon. And it hits back down in the water with an ear-stinging splash.
Nice, I got it. Got it on video.
We saw the underbelly, which was all white. Kind of looked like when a shark jumps out of the water, and it was shocking.
When it first came out of the water, it was kind of like watching a sea monster. It was massive. It was nothing I've ever seen before.
Gino's blown away by the sturgeon's strength, in and above water. As he grips the rod, the fish makes another leap. Plunging back down, deep like a crushing weight. Exhausted from the strain, Gino's arms are almost numb. Mike sees his brother struggling and rushes to help. Mike grabs the pole, taking on the next round.
Half of me was passing it on because he needed to feel the pull.
Yeah, this is bigger than I thought.
And the other half of it was because I was exhausted and I didn't think I could hold on that much longer.
I don't feel like I have anything. I feel like this guy's got me.
Each time the anglers feel their arms about to give out,
My back's hurting.
they pass the rod. After this tag team tug of war, the sturgeon starts to slow down. Gino marshals his strength for the final pull, praying he can reel in the flying beast. In a rush, the sturgeon rises to the surface.
I've never seen anything so big in my life.
The DiDomenico brothers finally see their supersized opponent face to face.
I mean, my jaw was on the floor trying to figure out how we're going to get this thing on the boat.
It takes every last deckhand to heft the hulking beast. At last, with a heave, they've got it.
Oh, that looks like about an 8-footer there, 7-8-footer.
Victorious, the men measure the monster at over 2 meters long and an estimated 90-plus kilos.
It was an accomplishment. There was some pride, and it felt good.
Snapping a fast photo, they waste no time releasing the fish back to its lair.
After having pulled it in, I initially called everybody I knew my cell phone just to tell people that I just caught a monster.
Come up. Oh my God. That's a big fish.
In Baja, Mexico, stalking the Sea of Cortez, bizarre, flattened beasts sail out of the water, looking more like birds than fish. Known as mobula rays, scientists believe surface swimming helps mobulas corral their prey. Then, to finish the job, they power through the air like flying birds, reaching nearly 2 meters above the surface, landing with predator precision. Like the mobulas, other rays can fly. But only one mammoth beast trumps them all. Majestic and monstrous, for them, the same principles of aerodynamics become hydrodynamics. Unlike any other creature on Earth, these seaborne stalkers literally soar through the ocean. The giant manta ray. And for one team of scientists, wrangling the giant manta barehanded is the ultimate challenge of man versus flying beast. Sea of Cortez, Mexico, November 2nd, 2003. Dr. Robert Rubin is one of the world's leading experts studying giant mantas. He's determined to bring these incredible ocean flyers back from the brink of overfished extinction.
Just as long as it's on the other side of the boat.
Robert and his research associate Gavin Chilcott are prepping an expedition to a remote group of volcanic islands over 500 kilometers southwest of Cabo San Lucas, nicknamed Mexico's Galapagos. It's one of the few spots in the world where researchers can monitor some of the biggest manta rays on the planet. The team travels a full day to reach the islands, but their work's just begun. Robert and Gavin want to uncover data about the rays' behavior and migration. To do it, they've got to make prolonged dives and attach sound-emitting tracking devices called acoustic tags to the biggest rays they can find.
These are the receivers for the listening stations. They'll place underwater. They'll be anchored to the seafloor, suspended by a float. This portion is the receiver.
To tag these elusive creatures, Robert often has to make as many as 12 attempts in shark-infested waters.
Going into a trip like this, there's a lot of uncertainty as to how well everything's going to work.
Their target, a truly otherworldly beast. At 1.5 tons, giant mantas look like flying saucers out of science fiction.
Mantas are among the largest animals in the sea, and they certainly are the largest ray. They're a little bit bigger than a two-car garage, from wingtip to wingtip.
Gliding through the water, wing-like pectoral fins can stretch more than 6 meters, muscling mantas across miles of ocean. But make no mistake, giant mantas can be as flexible as flying acrobats.
You'd barely imagine until you see them twisting barrel rolls and maneuvering around in tight circumstances. They're actually quite agile.
Though generally considered harmless to humans, for a team of researchers determined to tag them, tangling with these titanic beasts can quickly turn hazardous. Now, preparing to plunge to their whopper target, the team suits up.
All right, are we ready? Let's go.
Diving down, they first attach a sonar receiver to a reef. This listening device will monitor the tagged ray's location and activity. With the receiver in place, Robert and Gavin head to where they know mantas hang out. Hotspots dubbed the cleaning stations.
The fish rise up out of the reef and move all over the animals, cleaning parasites into their gills, into their mouths.
Working underwater is more than challenging. It's dangerous. Burdened with heavy equipment, Robert and Gavin must navigate strong currents, and they're always on the lookout for hungry hunters.
There's a lot of sharks around all the time when you're working on the mantas. And so it helps to have another person there looking over your shoulder for you.
Robert sets up on a rock plateau and scans the ocean for a monster manta. He spots a large ray approaching. He checks his tagging gun and swims towards the beast.
Maneuvering to get close enough to a ray to deploy a tag is a little bit of a dance, I think, with the animal.
Robert has to get as close as possible, at least 1 to 2 meters directly over the fast-moving fish. Even then, hitting the tagging sweet spot, the middle of the ray's lower back, requires extreme precision. Robert fires and misses. The ray flies away. Robert only has a limited number of tags and air. He quickly resets and waits for another ray. The longer the tagging process takes, the greater the risk of spooking the mantis out of reach. Robert spots a huge ray approaching. This time, he pursues, fires, and hits it.
The scales on the animal are arranged like shingles on a roof. If you place it in the correct spot at the right angle, it's just like putting a very sharp knife into butter.
The tag is in. Looking at his handiwork, Robert's perfectly snagged a 4.5 meter wide giant manta ray. Now, as the flying fish swims through the ocean, it can collect and transmit invaluable species-saving information. Mission accomplished.
90% of what I do is generated from just loving every moment, and they are magical beyond belief. I can't think of anything I'd rather do, day in or day out, ever.
Leaping, soaring, taking to the sky like aerial masters. Whether fighting for survival or hunting their next meal, they're the most extraordinary flyers of our rivers and oceans. And for science and sport, each unforgettable encounter brings us closer to hooked flying monsters.
Oh my God, oh my God.